Welcome to the Liberty Show. I'm Manuel Carlos. Joining me tonight is Ron Senkosh. Hey, Ron.
Hello, folks. How you doing?
Hey, good to have you back, Ron.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You know what, I told you about this earlier in the week. I'm going to relay a story here to everybody about the Potawatomi Zoo. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a tax to pay for some, I think, improvements there. And to tell you a little bit about what happened and why we're going to talk about it tonight. First of all, I'm not anti-zoo. I mean, you can have your pet projects or whatever you want, but when it comes to raising money or taxing people for it, that's something different. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and he brought something up because he knows I'm in the Libertarian Party, and he'll want to get my opinion. And he'll say, hey, did you hear that they're trying to do a food and beverage tax so they can pay for something for the zoo? And I'm like, a food and beverage tax? So I ran to the internet, looked it up, and sure enough, they're trying to raise some money. They want to do some improvements, and they want to do a food and beverage tax up to like 1%, I think. But then they're like, well, okay, people don't like that. We're going to do 1/4%. So Anti-Oligarch and I both know some people, and I'm not going to name names because I want to protect here, that have somewhat of association with that outfit. And they tried to raise the funds, I guess, voluntarily, right?
Yeah.
And because, maybe the zoo is a good thing, maybe it's not, I don't know. I don't go there. I'm sure a lot of people don't go there, but some people do, and so I'm not judging it. But they couldn't raise the money that they needed. So somebody had the idea, and I don't know who, but they're like, well, okay, if we can't get the money voluntarily, let's get it by force. Now, I'm sure that's not the conversation that they had, but when you do a tax, taxes aren't voluntary. Those are by force. So what they want to do is in St. Joe County, they want to raise, when you go out to a restaurant, when you even go to 7-Eleven and get the hot dog, it's already 7%, you pay 7% sales tax.
Right.
Well, they want to add another 1/4%, another percent. And so I emailed somebody that's, somewhat associated with this. And I asked him, I said, is this true? And do you support it? And he came back with, oh yeah, we need this money, we need this, we need to make these improvements. But don't worry, it's a small tax. It's really not anything. Now, how many small taxes do we have that eventually add up? I mean, how many small taxes can you get till it's 100%, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened in every case.
Right. And so as I'm reading his email, and I read the article in the South Bend Tribune, there was a county commissioner that I knew, and so I called him up, and he was against it, and it said in the paper that he didn't think it was going to go through, and sure enough, I asked him, he goes, oh, it won't go through unless they sneak it away, and he was telling me some ways that they could sneak it through. And I said, well, are you for this? And he said, no, I'm not for this tax. Now, this is a Republican, mind you. I'm not for this tax because it would only benefit the zoo. Now, if we could use that money for other things, well, then this would be a good tax, right? So this is the party that's supposed to be against taxes and everything. And as he's telling me this, I'm on the phone with him. I have my registration, my plates were due, right? And I'm looking at the wheel tax. Now, the wheel tax we've had since, what, the 90s?
The 90s, yeah.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be a temporary tax.
10 years max.
Yeah, and so we're way past that date. So I'm looking, there's $25 wheel tax. And, here's another tax. Oh, it's just going to be to raise money for the zoo. Well, what happens with the taxes is the government gets this money, and then they can't do without it because there's always that you hear, well, we've got the money, we've got to spend it. So then they earmark that, use that for whatever, and then something else comes along, and they get another tax. And what I did is I emailed this guy back, and I said, look, if any enterprise, not just a zoo, can't make it on its own from the free market, then you know what? They should go under. Why subsidize? Because why use the force of government? And here's and he never answered me back, in fact, and then I ran into him in the hallway, and he gave me a dirty look. But what people don't understand is that money is taken by force.
It sounds like you're anti-zoo.
I'm anti-zoo, anti-animal.
I'm not anti-zoo either, and it's kind of ironic because I've been accused of living in one several times by some people, but I don't live in one. And but I'm certainly not anti-zoo. We buy zoo passes for our grandkids to go to the zoo. I'm not a fan. I don't go there a lot myself. But here's the thing: conceptually, this isn't really about a zoo, right? This is, for us, this is so much more of a bigger picture thing, and what you're doing here is you're basically saying, hey, look, if enough of us vote for this or decide that this zoo is important to us, then we have the right to impose it on every single person. And we have the right to tax you to pay for it because we all decided to. This is sheer democracy in its horrible glory, right? And this is what's wrong with democracy. When people say, oh my goodness, we have democracy, or oh, democracy is so wonderful. Well, first of all, we have a constitutional republic, which is not a democracy. There's a difference. The difference is a constitutional republic is supposed to be the rule of law, not rule of man. A democracy is the majority rules. 51% wants to take away money from 49%. Not only do they win, it's justified. It now becomes legal, right? Now the minority can't take it away from the majority, right? Yeah. But it's all open stakes. It's all good. So you really have to, when you get into the minutia of this, when we come up and we tell the story, some of our viewers may absolutely love the zoo. They may think it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, and we're not anti-zoo.
And it may be fantastic.
The thing is, you're not asking. You're telling your neighbor, you're going to have to pay for the zoo because I want it, and we're going to use the force of law to make that happen. Now, at the end of the day, we're talking about a zoo. We're not talking about the road. We're not talking about the county jail, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking about a zoo. This is not, by any stretch or any means, a legitimate function of a government.
I'd agree with that.
Okay, I mean, I'm sorry, on almost anyone's definition, but the most bizarre would not define a zoo as a function of government. The same can be said for golf courses, the Moore Civic Auditorium, which is ironic because these are things that the county commissioner, said he would be for the tax if we could just also use it for these other things.
Right.
Right? Which again is, all these other things are just, may be fantastic, but they are not the reason that we have a government. We don't have a government so we can have a golf course and a music theater and a zoo, right? And if in a free society, if these entities cannot survive on their own, they have to find a way to do it. They have to downsize. They have to seek private money donors. There are ways that they can stay afloat. They have to change their model. So what they're really saying is, maybe the right zoo would be half the size the zoo is now. Maybe that's what the economy would support here. Maybe the zoo we have is too extravagant. Maybe it's too expensive to keep the animals that we have in it. Maybe we need to not have some of those animals. But the thing is, we're deciding that right now through the free market, right? If they are not taking enough money in, then their fees are not high enough, or they're spending more than their fees. Mm-hmm. So the message that we're telling them is, if we're not willing to pay higher fees to come see you, or we won't reach in our pockets and give you more money, we want you to change.
Right.
We want you to become smaller, right? All of the rest of us have to do that, right? That's what we all have to do. Somehow, a government agency cannot be immune from this concept. The government exists because we create it. And we allow it, right? It's not, we don't exist because they allow it, right? It's different. And when we do things like this in the market, these are the signals that we're telling you. If you put up a hot dog stand and you weren't selling enough hot dogs there to make a living, the market will be telling you, you can't make a living selling hot dogs the way you're doing.
And I might have the greatest hot dogs.
You might. They might be the most fantastic hot dogs. But maybe your cart's in the wrong spot. Maybe you're trying to sell them right out the back door of a restaurant where people are already full when they come out. I don't know. Whatever it could be.
People that like hot dogs.
It could be any of these things. But the market is telling you something. And for you, what we're saying is, oh, okay. So if the government were involved in that, they'd say, well, we have to tax you all a little bit higher and give some money because his hot dog cart just ain't cutting it. Mm-hmm. So we've got to tax you all so he can keep his hot dog cart there. And what we're really saying is, nobody really wants these hot dogs. or at least at the price you're selling them at, or whatever the case may be. So we've already told you something, right? And now the government is trying to, force feed or change that, what the public has already basically decided. And this is the conceptual problem I have with this, right? I mean, if you keep it just about the zoo, it makes it sound like we're some kind of old ogres who don't like animals and, don't care about things and don't care about little kids going to see them. Guys, it's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than that. And yes, you have an interest. Maybe you think the zoo's great, but somebody else thinks football's great, and we should have a pro football team.
Well,
and we should pay for
look
that.
at that Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
There was a guy, and I don't think he's live anymore, but do you remember back when they were talking about putting that up? There was one guy, I mean, he was just out there saying that, this is going to cost the city all kinds of money. It's not going to work. But no, the city got behind it, and I think there were some tax abatements. I don't even know if they put some money to it. Guess what we have today? An empty Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
The guy was right.
That's right.
Because you know what? If the free market really wanted a Football Hall of Fame here, there would have been money people coming in because they were going to say, hey, you know what? There's some bucks to be made.
That's right.
But the business people knew there wasn't bucks to be made putting a Hall of Fame here.
Right.
So then the government says they're going to come in and do that. So now it's costing the city of South Bend. I don't know how much it costs them. Still to this day, probably.
Yeah, last I heard they were trying to sell it, but that's been a couple of years ago. I don't even know what the sad state of that building is today. I don't think anything's in there as far as I know.
No, I don't think there is. Oh, there's a gym in there?
There's a gym in there. Okay, so there's that. But a couple of things that also through the discussion that I just want to point out. I think it's just amazing that we have a Republican Party who claims that they're small government people, that they're anti-taxation, and here in St. Joe County, they're not liking this tax because it's not big enough or it doesn't help more government entities.
Right.
Which is just shocking. It's not shocking to me anymore. It should be shocking to you if you still think that they're a party that cares anything about reducing taxation or about liberty or about small government. And the other thing is, it's interesting enough that also we discovered in here, in 2015, the zoo set attendance highs of its own. 220,000 people came there, an increase of 7.4% over the year before. So people are going to the zoo more than ever before, but somehow they're not raising enough money to keep the zoo open or to keep it maintained or do what they want to do with it, expand it or whatever the case may be. You know what? You got to find a way. Right? You got to increase your fees.
Increase fees, reduce some expenses. You got to find a way to make this work. I mean, you're not having trouble getting people coming through the gates, despite the fact that you say that you need these improvements, and perhaps you do. I really don't know what the state is, and I don't presume to know, right? Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that the thing is falling apart, and that if they don't put this money in, the gorilla enclosure is going to collapse, or who knows what, right? Let's just assume that this is all absolutely desperately needed to maintain the zoo. You got to find a way. Private donors, there are people that care about the zoo. You can get them to donate money. If you can't, they're telling you something else. They're telling you you're too big, downsize, your plans are too extravagant. And anyway, just a couple of things that I wanted to point out about the story. In one of the articles, there was a guy saying, well, he was opposed to the tax because it would tax local people, but he was for the hotel motel tax because it taxed people from elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so it's still, well, we're for taxes, we're for taking your money.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how we can be fans of taxes when we're not the ones that have to pay them? Right? When the perception is that somebody else is going to have to pay this tax and yet I can reap the benefit of it, that's somehow a fantastic tax to us. But any taxes we have to pay on our own are horrible.
And you wonder why we're at where we're at right now with all the taxes and everything.
Yeah, it's a what comes around goes around type of world, and if you set the precedent that it's okay to tax because I think this thing is good, then you better be prepared to pay the taxes for what your neighbor thinks is good. And the trouble with that is, I got a lot of neighbors. They like a lot of different things. There's no end in sight.
Well,
There's no end in sight.
We're not smokers.
We're not.
But you hear these people, oh yeah, let's have the tax on the cigarettes. Then when they're talking about legalizing marijuana, you hear the argument, well, let's just tax that like we tax cigarettes. And you set that precedent. Now, I'm not promoting cigarette smoking, not promoting marijuana smoking, but it's that it's that precedent. Well, we've taxed something here, so we can tax this other item
Right.
just like that. And the people that say that, of course, are the ones not actually being taxed.
Of course.
And then I always think it's too, they have the sin taxes. You want to talk about going after people that, maybe they do have an addiction problem. The tax is not going to stop them, but they know they have a captive market that they can just suck money out of.
Exactly right.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break, and we'll be back.
Do you pay taxes?
Yeah, I do.
A lot of taxes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Certainly do.
Yes, we do.
I do.
Yes.
Do you pay an amount that you think is fair, or too much or too little?
Went up a little bit, but going for good things, I hope.
In the current environment, I am more than covering way more than my fair share.
I can't really say on that one. Actually, because I work federal.
How much do we pay? I don't know.
Why do you pay taxes?
Because it's the law and because it does take money to run a government.
Because I have to. Same reason everyone does.
Because we're required to.
I believe you have to pay taxes.
Because I have to.
Why?
Why do I pay taxes? Because I have to.
What is theft?
What is theft?
Stealing from other people. Stealing something that doesn't belong to you.
What is theft? Taking something that doesn't belong to you.
What is theft? When you steal something,
Well, what is stealing?
you take something that doesn't belong to you.
Do you accept that definition?
Yes, I do.
Someone takes something you don't belong. No, that don't belong to them. Sorry about that.
Definitionally, taking something that you don't own.
What is theft? Theft is taking someone's property without their permission.
Is taxation theft?
No, not by the way we do things here, no. If it's voted on by legally elected representatives, it is not theft.
Not really, I don't guess.
No, not at all.
What happens if
We enjoy some pretty amazing things in this country. As a Russian-born immigrant, we have a lot of freedoms that we didn't have as Jews in the former Soviet Union, and I am very, not against paying taxes.
So is taxation theft?
I don't think so.
Is taxation theft?
No.
Why not?
We get something in return for it.
No.
What happens if I don't pay my taxes?
Well, for obvious reasons, you would, if found, you would go to jail or have to pay back taxes or whatever the consequences would be.
There's a penalty for it, but we do have to pay taxes. It's part of the social contract. It's part of the obligation.
What happens if you don't?
I have a feeling, let's see, if you don't pay your taxes, what do? They
House or whatever.
They confiscate everything you have.
If the three of us right here say we're breaking off from the United States, we're seceding on this little plot right here, and we decided that this little area here, we're going to break off from the United States, the way that we broke off from England, right? We're going to vote though, because there's three of us here, so we're going to have a democracy, and we vote to make you our slave and to take all of your stuff. If you have to pay it in taxes, it's because we are going to be the government. How is that different from the process of the American government saying as just a larger group, it's not theft because we voted on it? Is that theft?
I wouldn't vote on it.
Well, you already lost the vote because there's three of us and there's only two of you.
That's right.
No. Nope.
So is that not theft? Oh,
No, I'm not getting into that.
I understand the concept you're saying. Look, we can live in an organized society or we can have chaos. If you want to declare this little block here an independent country, I suppose you're free to do so. Now make it stick. Okay, like anything else.
well, I wouldn't take this block. It's way too close to the White House.
They spend a lot of money over there.
The government owns our income and lets us keep a part of it.
Well, no. No.
Is the government not taking from us, or does it own our income?
I guess it's taking from us.
How is it not theft for the government to say part of your income is going to come to us whether you like it or not?
Well, that is, yeah, you're right. Yeah. That would be considered theft in my book, yeah.
So it's theft.
That's just how it is.
So you're just going to accept that?
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's the majority, like voting and coming together, if you're in the minority and you don't like where that money's going, you're out of luck, right? Your money's going to get taken from you by the government. If you refuse, you get locked in a cage, and the money goes to what the majority wants. Do you think that this is a fair system?
Not really.
Do you support that idea of a system where we get to take from people against their will to pay for government?
No.
Have you ever considered that taxation is theft before?
Not until now.
What does that make you think of government then? What does that make you feel different in your relationship with government at all?
A little bit.
I guess you're free to do what you want, understand the consequences, and get enough people to join you. You know what? It's called a revolution.
Oh, Alexis. Why, Alexis? Why do you pull away from me? There's so many dangers out there. Terrorists, marijuana, trans fats. I will keep you safe. Always.
Weirdo.
So my life is basically ruined. I'm bankrupt, I'm in a dead-end job, I have no home, and I'm still paying for pediatric dental for some reason. And it's all Gov's fault.
How bad is it? So, are you finally done with Gov?
That's the thing. Can I be done with him?
What do you mean?
I just can't seem to get rid of him. I've been doing all I can to avoid him, but I think he might be spying on me. Whoa. Somehow the other day he replied to an email I didn't even send to him.
Weird.
And I keep seeing that thing.
Go about your normal business.
What's that?
I'm a bird. Tweet. Ignore me. Tweet, tweet, tweet.
This has to be my second or third worst breakup.
Oh! I am so glad that you are here, Lexus.
Who was that?
That was just my friend from the cell phone company.
This is my phone number.
Lots of people have the same phone number.
That's not how phone numbers work.
Oh, okay, Miss Graham Bell, Miss Phone Expert. You know what? This is your problem. You always focus on the minutia when you should be focusing on our future together.
We have no future together. And I want you to leave me alone for good. And that means no more following me and no more spying on me.
Spying on you?
Yeah.
Spying?
Yeah.
Oh, that's rich. I would never spy on you. You know, this is exactly what you said when you were alone in your bathroom on January 17th, 6:18 p.m.
Ooh, what are you looking at?
I was trying to turn it when you went that way. And then we gotta coordinate this a little bit better.
These are my emails.
Don't freak out. I'm just scanning them for keywords.
What keywords?
Well, here's a list of them.
That's an English dictionary.
And I'm not even reading them, all right? I'm just analyzing the metadata.
The what?
Okay, think of it this way. It might be creepy if I went to your mailbox and I opened up all your letters and I read them, line by line. But it's not creepy. If I simply collect information about those letters, the addresses, who sent it, when they sent it, how thick the envelope was, and then I use that information to be compiled so I can make conclusions about your beliefs and behaviors.
Actually, that's super creepy.
Oh, I've checked the legal precedent for creepy. It's not.
Why are you doing this?
To protect you from terrorists.
You're insane.
All right, you might not think that you love me, but it's still my job to protect you. I'm like Batman. That's silly. He doesn't have any superpowers. I'm more like Aquaman, but a land Aquaman. Instead of commanding fish, I command everybody.
You don't command me. You're an arrogant jerk who screws up everything he touches. You talked me into racking up $40,000 in student debt. You forced me into a healthcare plan I couldn't afford. You ruined my business. You spent all my money. We're done. And stop spying on me, weirdo.
Alexis, don't forget about me.
Oh, I won't. I'll remember you every time I write a check to pay my student loans.
Oh, good, so you're still paying those. Hope I can return the drone.
All right, we're back at it after another LoveGov video. I like those videos we've been showing the last few shows. They're well done, they're short, and they really get the message across about government involvement. And even you could have good intentions, but how it ultimately ends up.
I hope you guys enjoy them as much as we do.
Right. So what do we have here for the remainder of the show, Ron, to kind of wrap up? What can people do?
Well, again, we're going to touch some of the ideas that folks can do. You know, if you want to help, there are lots of ways you can get involved. You can run for office. You can vote for libertarian candidates so that we can take over the world or take over the U.S. government and leave you alone. Not the world. We'll let the other countries decide how they want to run their own places. Right. You can help someone run for office. You can share these videos and ideas with your friends and family. One of my personal favorites. Of all the things on this list, I'm putting a little star next to that one because this doesn't require a great deal of effort from you. It doesn't require one penny out of your pocket. Talk to the people that you're already friends with, that you already trust and respect, and share these ideas, and get their feedback on it. I mean, don't make it a one-way street. Make it a two-way conversation, and listen to their concerns as well, and see if you can't get them to understand a couple of the liberty policy things and see things from a bit different perspective. You can donate time or money to any of these efforts. You can come to our local meeting. You can find us at meetup.com. Look for Michiana Libertarians, and you can email us questions, comments, or show ideas, and we have our email address that we'll put up on the screen. Right, Manuel?
That's right. And joining us at the meetings, you're just get around other people that are interested in liberty ideas, and it's really refreshing because a lot of times we're out there with everybody else. And they're talking Democrats, Republicans, we need to have this government program for that. And it drives you a little batty, and then you come to our meeting and you're saying, okay, I'm not crazy. There's actually other people that say, hey, this type of thinking isn't right. Yeah. As far as government will solve everything. And so I don't want to say it's...
You're not alone.
You're not alone. It's not actually therapy, but it almost is. But we also come up with action plans, things we can do, like Ron says, if you're interested in running for office, come and talk to Ron and find out what we're about, see if it lines up with what you want to do. Look at some local offices, or maybe you just want to say, hey, I want to support somebody. I want to be involved in some level. I just like to come for the pizza, but maybe I can help out, set a booth up. Maybe I can hand out a flyer, whatever. It doesn't matter what level of involvement that you want to do, we'll take you.
One thing's for certain, folks, this doesn't happen alone. It doesn't happen without effort. We have to do something. If you feel compelled to do something, I hope something I mentioned on the list works for you, and we want to hear from you. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on The Liberty Show.
Live free.